Please send your seat.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for Public Safety Committee, March 27th, 2019, 3 p.m. Madam Secretary, if you'd call the roll, please.
Rick Brewer,
Here.
Dawson Fields, Mike Farrell,
Present.
Raymond Jesse,
Here.
Tom Kern, John Betts,
Here.
Charles Thacker. Mr. Chairman, we have 5 members present constituting a quorum.
Go ahead and entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda.
I so move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Brewer,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Farrell. All in favor, please state the same aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. All right, we will move right on to review of applicants for EMS franchise rights. And these have not been opened. This is the first time we're seeing them.
Since this is not this is a special call meeting, and there is something that very useful to have some information on, and it has to be today, something that's standard rules and
Do we want to go ahead and do that now?
we can.
Okay, entertain a motion to suspend the rules for, something we need to deal with.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Have a motion by Commissioner Burrell,
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Thacker. Any opposed? Mr. Merle, we'll go ahead and recognize you.
Okay, this is something that I think needs to come forward the Public Safety Committee now. It's gonna go public to the county citizens on our damages that we received due to the flooding since February the 6th. Our PA damages, which is a public damage to roads and stuff like that, is continuing on. We are in the request to the federal government, to the president, to be declared in the disaster declaration for that. The other email I got was on the IA side of this, which is the individual assessment, which we had 151 homes, 3 churches, and several parcels of property that received damage, some of them significantly, some of them not so much, but we have not been approved for the IA process through the TEMA and federal government. TEMA didn't have anything to do with this federal government. We sent our information in that we had accrued through the damage assessment team through Jeff Thacker's office over here, and we did not get put in the individual assessment for any money from FEMA on that. There's only 5 counties in the state of Tennessee that got that. The closest one to us was Sevierville. So I just want to let y'all know, because there's probably going to be some unhappy people in the county that's not going to get any help for what they've done due to the flooding. I thought that needed to come up now before it goes public. They're going to send out the emails to all the press and media to let them know that that's what is going on with that. It's bad to say, but just on the county side of what is going to be spent is about $770,000 is what the estimate is right now of roads, damage to the roads, debris removal, Houston Electric, Lakeview Utility District, Sheriff's Department. I'm still waiting on one from the local rescue squad here for what they had to do during this time, which be considered in kind. But that was a a big shocker that we didn't get included in the IA program with FEMA.
Is there anything we need to do on our end?
I've talked with my district regional director down here, and as of right now, there's nothing that you can do. I mean, we turned in everything that we done, the assessments on the homes, the amount of damages. They even seen pictures of some of them, and we didn't get included. So I don't know what the threshold is. They will not tell you what the threshold is for IA assistance. We do know the PA assistance, $212,000. We hit that early on in the stages, but I don't know what the threshold is for the IA, and that's something they will not tell you. So that's where we're at on that. We tried very hard this time, done a lot of work on it, and didn't get included. So I thought y'all might know.
Do you know what the dollar figure was for the IA?
For ours, no, I don't have the dollar figure, because the dollar figure would have come from the tax assessor's office. We had 4 ways affected: minor, major, and destroyed. That was the 4 areas. We had 1 that was destroyed. We had 7 minors, and the rest of them was affected. And that's just a percentage on what the value of the property or the residence is. And there was some misinformation on some of this. People thought they had sinkholes, the driveways got washed away or whatever, that would be covered. None of that's covered. It's just strictly livable space that was damaged. And that's what we turned in. We didn't turn in any of the other. The sinkholes, driveways, and stuff like that went through soil conservation and the ag office. So that's where we're at on that.
Is there any questions for Mr. Merle?
Thank you.
What's been distributed thus far is a packet from Hawkins County EMS. Lifeguard ambulance service. The originals.
You need to click on how to tell the lifeguard.
That's junk.
Pardon?
I do that lifeguard for Miss Roberts.
Yes, sir. I would like to actually just have an open and candid discussion about this, as to how you might want to proceed. And give a little background quickly. I've handed out several news articles that go back to January of 2015. This started out summer of 2014, actually, and initially there were 3 services involved: Churchill EMS, Hawkins County EMS, and Lifeguard. And we went through a process of how to approach approval of those services. The committee at that time recommended all three services go through the full commission. That was derailed in full commission, and the approval was given to Hawkins EMS and Churchill EMS. Soon after, unbeknownst to us, Churchill EMS goes under. The mayor and some other pertinent individuals received phone calls, I think it was on a Saturday, Friday night, that the service was going under, and there was an emergency meeting that was on Saturday, wasn't it, to discuss that. So at that time, the decision was made soon after by the committee and the full commission to revoke the franchise rights of Churchill EMS, leaving Hawkins County EMS as the standalone service servicing the county. The intent of the committee at that time, when approving all three, was that there would be a exploratory committee which was launched and approved that would research the whole process. And during the time of those three being approved, we would put together a pre-hospital board. That pre-hospital board would be the guiding committee that was totally apolitical. No commissioners, mayor, no one employed by the county was to be a part of that committee. And they would essentially establish and revise regulations, be the oversight authority, etc. But when it all came apart, that just fell by the wayside. So we have a couple of options. We go through the same process we did last time, which is go through a checklist and then approve whoever you want to interview, go through the interview process, make a recommendation to the full commission, which then approves franchise rights. Am I missing anything, Ms. Ross?
Correct, you're correct.
So, in my mind, based on the lessons that we've learned, and even going back to the fact 5 years ago, we felt like there was a crisis, several pending issues that were going to need to be addressed, not only short term but long term. And there's a lot of still yet unanswered questions. I will give kudos to Hawkins County EMS. I think they've done a fine job. They covered the county adequately, and in my mind, from a lot of the information that we've received feedback on. So by no means is any of this a kick towards Hawkins County EMS, by no means. But I'd like a little bit of informal feedback from the committee as to how you would like to proceed. Do we go through the interview process and do the checklist, do the interview process, and then make a recommendation? Or would you recommend reassembling that committee of non-political persons, of which there was a couple of physicians, I think the dean is it the EMS department at Water State that was involved. There were several far more qualified individuals than what I could ever be on this topic that were involved in this. You had Ralph Darnell involved in it, Dr. Mahalik, Dr. Jones, Tim Strange, Dean of Public Safety, Water State, Stacy Mahan, critical care paramedic, flight medic, Miss Jackie Charles, who was involved with the school board at that time. You had Bill Killen, who actually, I believe you wrote an article about Bill, did you know about that?
Several.
Yes, sir. He's a highly qualified individual. Ralph Darnell worked for NASA.
Yeah. So did Bill Killen.
And Mr. Killen, so you had several very high profile individuals, and Dr. Mahalik actually established the EMS service in Davidson County. and was a retired cardiologist. So you had a lot of high-profile individuals with combined well over 100 years of experience dealing with EMS and medical related issues. So the floor is wide open for discussion on what you gentlemen might like to do, how you want to proceed. Everybody don't have to talk at one time.
If, can we do the interview and then decide if we need to do the committee or not?
That's totally up to what this committee recommends.
I know that committee was a whole lot more well qualified than I am to make a call on something like this. I'm with whatever.
There's several lessons learned from what's happened. I personally don't want to get put in another position where we put hours upon hours upon hours of time into it, and then it goes to full commission and falls apart. I don't know that any of us, I certainly don't have that kind of time to waste.
Mr. Chairman, would these people be willing to serve?
I've not contacted anyone because I didn't want to be accused of any collusion. That's the buzzword now, I believe, isn't it? That's why I'm bringing it to this committee openly for discussion, and if that's the path that you would like to take, then we can contact those individuals and see who's interested in serving on it.
Well, I'm like Mr. Brewer, I think they're much more qualified to make this decision than what we are, or at least I am anyway. And, if that be the case, I'd put that in form of a motion, that we contact these people, see if they would be willing to do that again. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second now open for discussion.
Will they come back to us after they do their research, or will they go straight?
In my mind, probably the best option would be to get them involved and determine how we would go about establishing a pre-hospital board, what would be involved in that. And essentially, they go back, review the regulations, revise those, and like I said, they're the professionals, they know what's going on. We were kind of thrown into this because what initiated all this is there was a thought process that seemed to be common knowledge that Churchill EMS and Hawkins County EMS had exclusive rights in the county. And that was established by resolution, but that was not the case. It was actually the rescue squads that were. So you risked the opportunity of outside services coming in, servicing this county, hurting the revenues of the two services that were established at that time, putting them under, and, here we go with, an even larger crisis.
This also takes politics out of it too, John.
Yeah, and, I for one am tired of that. Yes, sir.
Can you entertain a question from the?
Absolutely, it's open, we're having informal discussion.
Thank you. I just had a question or two. Everybody that you mentioned seemed to be just preeminently qualified in the medical sense of the word. And what I'm wondering is how are you going to go about assuring that the kinds of problems that we've seen in terms of sustainability of operations don't rear their head? And what I mean by that is I don't know the root cause of Churchill going under. I do hear a lot about the number of ambulances that are posted in the county, and is that sufficient? So I'm just wondering, how do you assess how the business is carried out to where you have adequate ambulances out, A. Number two, that you can verify any comments you make about how much service you have to do to post an ambulance, how you keep an ambulance service from folding up. And I mean that entirely from a business perspective and not a medical qualification, because I'll tell you, Hawkins County EMS saved my wife's life. The paramedic on board there, I am absolutely convinced, and I'm a former EMT, I'm convinced that his decision-making on the site saved my wife's life. So I don't have any problems with the EMS service that's in place right now from a medical technical point of view. I just question continuity of operations and how you're going to assess that.
I'm sorry, and your name is?
I apologize. My name is Pat Shipwash. I was raised here from the first grade and currently reside here in the county.
Well, thank you for those questions. Those are very good questions. At that time, our director of finance with the county was a CPA, Nicole Buchanan. She was on that committee as well. When it comes to the issues of Churchill EMS, what we learned was, well, naturally, number one, if your intent is to defraud, and that's a challenge in itself.
Sure.
Second, there was a lot of money being put into capital projects for buildings, property. They had a lot of property. We were under the impression and was told that a lot of those properties were unencumbered, that if they needed access to a line of credit, they could utilize those assets to secure their line of credit.
Right.
Their line of credit, we learned after the fact, as we began to ask questions that we essentially already knew were answered incorrectly to begin with, that they had tapped out completely their line of credit against those properties, and they were not servicing that line of credit. That was just one of the issues among many others. So,
It's a large issue.
yeah, we found out the hard way. So, within this group, I believe we would definitely need a CPA involved. So that's definitely a route that we need to go. We had a CPA involved last time with Ms. Buchanan being involved. But yes, those are definitely very good questions. Some other questions that you asked would be questions that I'm sure that committee would address as they did before. Those were some of the same issues that they had brought forth as questions and worked diligently to find those answers. They even determined how many units that they felt would serve the county as a whole.
Well, that's really responsive, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the work all the commissioners are doing. And like I said, I really sure appreciate what your paramedic did that night. Thank you. For sure. Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second to contact the individuals that were on that previous committee to see if they would be willing to serve.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, that, along with my motion, that committee that is formed, that they come back to this committee with their findings, I guess.
Yes, sir. But what we did last time is they came to this committee just giving updates, and then when they delivered their full report, they did it to the full commission. So it wasn't as if we were privy to information that the full commission, they got it at the same time we got it. They just gave us periodic updates. And in my mind, instead of trying to rush this through, the franchise rights are up in June.
In June, but I think that with this still going forward, I think you'll be able to just extend that on a temporary basis until some decision is made.
So we could give a 90-day, 6-month extension to the franchise rights that are currently in place.
If that happens, probably 90 days wouldn't be bad. If it extends out 6 months, you might need to just go to county commission by resolution, and that way we have a paper trail of what we need to do.
Okay, so if we extend the current franchise rights by 90 days, you don't believe we have to go full commission?
I think you could go with 90 days without having to do that. Any more than that, I think you would need to do that by resolution.
Okay.
May I ask one last question?
Yes, sir.
This approach that you're taking right now seems really rational to me. But is this the approach you took the last time that you said kind of crashed and
It was
burned?
the attempted approach, yes, sir.
Okay, how are you gonna keep it up in the air this time? In other words, how's this gonna be any more successful this go around than the last one was?
14 new commissioners.
Yeah, I saw that, that's,
Possibly.
yeah.
So, this group of commissioners, I'm really proud of. We've got a lot of small business owners involved now, more than what we have in the past, and probably since Mr. Alice, you're definitely a senior member of the commission. I don't mean that by age, but you can probably attest to the fact we've got more small business people involved, and we've got a lot of experienced commissioners involved. And I feel comfortable that more cooler heads will prevail, and there was a substantial amount of politics involved in that go around, and one of the entities that was most aggressive and pushing the political buttons doesn't exist any longer.
Okay, thank you.
And Chairman Matt, you're correct. I don't know if this committee will be willing to go through that again, because they spent countless of hours last time only to have it just wiped away.
For those that I may be responsible for contacting, I can assure you I'll be walking with hat in hand to essentially beg for their assistance. However, I will say most of these individuals were doing this for the county. There's no compensation whatsoever, and for them to be willing to put that amount of time into this, I was very, the whole commission was appreciative that it just got out of hand.
Wasn't it defeated by like one vote last time?
I think that's right.
So,
It gained a little traction, but there was certainly some maneuvering going on. You remember that?
it was close then.
If, somebody that don't wanna serve on it this time, what's the procedure of putting somebody in that place?
Well, what I would like to do is come back in a couple of weeks possibly with a report of who's willing to serve, and maybe if this committee and the public would like to make recommendations of individuals that they think is highly qualified to participate in it.
How many was on that committee, John?
Let's see.
It was 15 or more, I think, was it, yeah.
11?
If we had a committee, if some of them didn't want to serve, if it was enough,
And more than pulled off. Just looking for that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
if there's enough diversion on that with 7 or 9, could we go with less if maybe 1 or 2 of them didn't want to serve, maybe a smaller committee, as long as it's, if we're an uneven number, I guess, in case we need to vote.
We can come back with those that are willing to serve and let the committee make the determination on actual numbers at that time. But as we did last time, we went to full commission with the recommendation of the committee, which by TCA code, we have to do. So we will have to present this before full commission to get approval for reassembling this committee, because it is an ad hoc committee. I am correct in that.
You are correct, yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who was that second?
Commissioner Jesse.
I'm very proud of the Hawkins County EMS and what they do. I think they've done a good job. But I was looking at this lifeguard here, and I guess on page 6, it shows, I'm assuming this is what it is. I haven't read it, I haven't had time to look at it, but 13 counties they serve in Tennessee, plus a portion of Shelby County, I believe. quality is what they serve already in Texas. I just thought I'd point that out, I didn't know if anybody flipped through there and saw that or not.
I really, at this time, I don't want to, ask questions of either entity right now. They seem biased in any way towards one entity. All right, we have a motion and a second. Ready to vote? Do we wanna go, roll call vote? Let's just go roll call vote, that way we have a very formal vote.
Rick Brewer,
Yes.
Raymond Jesse,
Yes.
Mike Harrell,
Yes.
John Metz,
Yes.
Charles Thacker.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 yeses.
Okay.
And if you're gonna come back to the committee in a couple of weeks, this meeting you're having today is a special call meeting. It's not your quarterly. So your quarterly meeting is scheduled for April the 17th, so that'll put you out 3 weeks, well, 2.5 weeks.
Okay. So that's,
Will that be the same with John?
yeah, I would think so. And I'm sorry, that day again was.
April 17th,
At 3.
3 o'clock.
One thing I would like to add to the agenda for next month is, a discussion about animal control. It's just gonna be an open discussion. I was involved in something yesterday and learned a lot and realized that there's a lot of people having issues more than what I even realized, so that's just something that I think we need to just simply discuss next time as well, if that can be added to the agenda.
I got a couple things I need to add to, if this committee is all right with it, but, I think we need to go back and look at these rules and regulations. And also, we need to talk about the constables of the county.
Hopefully the rules and regulations, hopefully will be handled by that committee.
I guess one reason I make that motion, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that we've had all this handed to us here, and we've not had time to look at all this.
Yes.
Another issue that we may want to address on the 17th is, I had this one lady to call me, in the Edson community about no ambulance service there with 66 and Highway 70 shut down. They've gotta go all the way to 31 and back up. And they were concerned about that.
There's a plan in place for that community due to those road closures.
Okay, let's just go ahead and address that now for anybody that.
Currently, once Highway 70 North and Highway 66 was shut down, we contacted Hancock County EMS and asked them if they would be able to respond to those calls in those locations. And if they were not, our ambulance would still be going, they would cancel our ambulance.
Yeah.
So they do have coverage, it's just coming from an adjacent county.
Well, I told her, that was possible, but I didn't have an answer, I told her I would check on it to see, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you would like to address regarding that, Mr. Morrow?
Well, what he was talking about there, it's not just EMS. We had a meeting with EMS, the fire department's involved on this closure. Everyone across the mountain is covered probably as good or better right now than they have been either on EMS, law enforcement, and fire. Fire departments over here that covered Clinch Valley with them cannot cross the mountain. So we're utilizing Hancock County Fire Departments, which is much closer, and they've all come to an agreement when we had our meeting to help with this problem. So I think the citizens in Clinch is get a pretty good service going on right now with the automatic backup they've got going.
Chairman Metz.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good idea to bring it up about the animal control. I still receive, as of yesterday, a call from the sheriff's department on how to go about handling a vicious dog. It's just frequently I get calls, and I refer them to the Humane Society, but with 56,000 people in the county, we deserve an animal control officer. Cities has one, but the county doesn't.
What are you gonna do with them when you send that officer out there to get them? Where are they gonna take them?
Do like the cities do, we keep two stations open at the Humane Society for them, like Churchill, Sir Lawrenceville, whoever. We always have 2 cages for that animal, for that city.
What you're gonna do, when you start the county, it's gonna be more animals, it ain't just gonna be like the city, so.
It'll be a start. We're long overdue on a start.
My thought would be, once we get to that point, to get all municipalities together with the county and try and make a joint decision. They've all already got assets in place and personnel in place, and perhaps we can piggyback off each other and assist each other and deal with it that way. So there'll be lengthy discussions on that. I'm
I
certain.
guarantee it's a problem.
Every day.
Well, I'll be brief, but I'd asked Ms. Merle to give me some numbers on, how many animal complaints there were in 2018, 539. So that's gonna be, on average, 1.5 calls per day on animal control issues, tying up officer and assets. So there's a lot of information to gather and get to work on, so we'll discuss that in more detail next month.
Mr. Ellis remembers one night that he was involved in a large scale operation, don't you, Ben?
Most of the night.
Several counties was in here, several humane societies or animal controls was here from several counties got this. We had a major mess.
But I agree with Chairman Metz, that needs to be discussed.
I know I got off task a little bit. I just want to try and prepare everybody for what we might want to discuss next month. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Commissioner Brewer,
Second.
second by Commissioner Thacker. Thank you.